Good morning. My name is Kathy Gilchrist. I'm pleased to be joining our interim minister, the Reverend Dr. Kathy Hurt, on the chancel this morning. Today you get two Kathys for the price of one. As a matter of fact, when we were planning this service, Kathy thought, oh my goodness, two Kathys, we will surely confuse people. To which I replied, well, you are the Reverend Kathy Hurt, and that gives me the opportunity to be the irreverent Kathy Gilchrist. I will try my best not to be while I'm here. So, in any case, I am a cradle UU from Stoughton, Massachusetts. I was a member of a congregation there when there was just one U in UU. So that was quite a while ago. We welcome you to this sanctuary and to this worship service, including those of you who are joining us online. I'm not sure where to look for those people, but hello. We welcome you to this time that we set aside each week to find and keep our balance, to reflect on what matters most to us, to savor the connections with one another that we have here, and to strengthen us for the work of building the beloved community. To everyone familiar and everyone new to this congregation, you are welcomed with love.
And now, in solidarity with Unitarian Universalist congregations across the nation and around the world, we begin our service by lighting our chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Pamela Waite. Pamela, please come do the honors for us, and let's say together the words in our order of service. We light this chalice as sojourners looking for light, for hope, for peace, for love. We gather as people from many backgrounds, many spiritual paths. But as we light this chalice, we gather as one body, looking to the stories of this season for their messages to all of humanity. The message that there is ever and always light, hope, peace, love. And now let's sing our young people off to their classes.
Our reading this morning is entitled A Christmas Prayer by Maureen Killoran. Not gold, nor myrrh, nor even frankincense would I have for you this season, but simple gifts, the ones that are the hardest to find, the ones that are perfect, even for those who have everything, if such there be. I would, if I could, have for you the gift of courage, the strength to face the gauntlets only you can name, and the firmness in your heart to know that you, yes, you, can be a bearer of the quiet dignity that is this human glorified. I would, if by my intention I could make it happen, have for you the gift of connection, the sense of standing on the hinge of time, touching past and future, standing with certainty that you, yes, you, are the point where it all comes together. I would, if wishing could make it so, have for you the gift of community, a nucleus of love and challenge to convince you in your soul that you, yes, you, are a source of light in a world too long believing in the dark. Not gold, not myrrh, nor even frankincense would I have for you this season, but simple gifts, the ones that are hardest to find, the ones that are perfect, even for those who have everything, if such there be.
Each Sunday in our service, we set aside time to reflect on the joys and sorrows of our lives, experiences that we celebrate, experiences that we would so wish to avoid. And we bring those experiences alike, joys and sorrows, into this sacred time as a way of opening up the possibility of meaning they carry for us. At this time, you're invited, if you have a joy or sorrow that you'd like to mark, either by lighting a candle or making your way around the Christmas tree to the fountain, to drop a stone in the fountain here, to do so as we sing Spirit of Life. And I light a final candle for all those joys and sorrows that we all carry close to our hearts. Please join now in a spirit of reflection, meditation, and prayer. In the silence, cast your thoughts ahead to the celebrations coming later this week, whether those happen in the next few days or actually a week from now on Christmas. And call to mind those you look forward to seeing as part of those celebrations, faces of those you cherish. And in thinking about the upcoming celebrations, now call to mind the faces of those you will not see, perhaps not just this year, perhaps have not seen at such celebrations for a long time, perhaps once saw at these celebrations, but will not see again. For all those who are part of our circle of love, with us, not with us, perhaps with us in the future, for all those who make up our circle of love, we give thanks. Amen. One of my favorite holiday stories about Christmas gifts gone awry is O. Henry's classic, The Gift of the Magi. You may recall it. The narrative describes how a young couple facing the holiday expectation of gifts, each wanting to present the other with something truly wonderful, sacrifices in order to make that truly wonderful gift possible. Yet when the time comes to open the gifts, each person is stunned to be receiving a gift that no longer makes sense as a result of the sacrifice. Della gives Jim a watch chain that he had long desired, but Jim sold his watch in order to buy Della's gift. Jim gives Della a gift of hair combs that would be perfect for her beautiful long hair, but Della had her hair cut short and sold her tresses in order to be able to afford the watch chain. O. Henry closes the story with a curious comment. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as these are wisest. Everywhere they are wisest. They are the Magi. A curious comment because those gifts are ultimately useless due to the sacrifices each made in order to come up with the money for the gift. So how exactly are they the wisest, the Magi? The hour of gift giving and receiving is fast approaching upon us in just 1 week, bringing to an end this long season of being bombarded with expectations that we will shower others with gifts and can hope that in turn we ourselves will be showered with gifts. Some of those gifts will be ones we had long desired and are delighted to finally receive. Some of those gifts will be disappointing because they demonstrate a stinginess in someone we expected generosity from, or a lack of awareness on the part of the giver about our true interests. We will give and receive, and the day after the holidays we'll probably return or regift or put away on a shelf a fair number of those gifts, heave a sigh of relief that the season is finished, feel a sense of letdown that the season is finished. And after all that frenzy of giving and receiving, what will be different? When I was 10 years old, I came out on Christmas morning to find a curry comb and a note from Santa under the tree telling me I would find my present in the front yard. Tied to a pole was a brown and white spotted horse, saddled and waiting for me. I tend to be a pretty reserved person, but not that morning. I ran shrieking down the front steps, so frightening the poor horse that she nearly strangled herself trying to run away. That particular gift changed my life forever. Not because I received the horse I'd been longing to have ever since I was a small child and began to draw horses and make horses out of Play-Doh and read books about horses and construct elaborate fantasies about horses, which I acted out by putting an old saddle we had in the garage on a picnic table bench. Not because I received the gift that truly was my heart's desire, though that was wonderful. The gift of a horse was life-changing because it told me what I had come to believe about myself and my parents was not entirely true. The second of 6 children, the daughter of young parents who were struggling financially and emotionally, I believed that my parents rarely noticed me and didn't particularly like me. I was a quiet and compliant child, which meant in that large family I found myself often invisible, while the noisier and not so compliant siblings commanded more parental attention. I believed my parents had hoped I would be the stereotypical girl of that era, a girl who aspired to marry and live in the suburbs and spend my days drinking coffee with other housewives as we discussed how to keep our kitchen floors shiny and how to deal with our clueless husbands. I was thwarting those expectations already by age 10, not playing with dolls, preferring my chemistry set to my Easy Bake oven, devouring library books, saddling up that picnic table bench every afternoon, sharing a baseball card collection with my older brother. And then the horse came, the one gift I longed for but never expected to receive, because I knew horses were expensive, because I figured my parents had never noticed how much I loved horses. When I saw that horse in the front yard, after the shock wore off, a new reality began to sink in for me. A reality in which I had to take another look at my parents and see that they were aware of me. They were noticing what I loved. They did have some sense of the person I was becoming, even if that person was not quite what they had envisioned. After the gift of a horse, I could no longer be convinced of the story I'd told myself, in which I played the part of the forgotten and unloved child, because each morning when I saw my horse out in the pasture, I saw a very different story. The Christmas narrative that has been unfolding around us for weeks and reaches its climax next Sunday includes myriad versions of gift-giving and gift-receiving stories. The stories show up in advertisements that most often feature the recipient with a look of surprise, wonder, and delight when whatever gift object is being advertised is presented. The Santa narrative, of course, is everywhere, and again, focused on what one wants to receive for Christmas. The biblical narrative of the season takes a different perspective on gifts in its account of the three wise men, the Magi, who journeyed a great distance to present thoroughly inappropriate gifts to a poor baby in a barn. That story is about the process not of receiving, but of giving, with little concern for what is received or what gifts mean to the one getting them. A tricky business, this business of giving, receiving. Some of us do a far more skillful job on one side of that exchange than we do on the other. Often being the giver is the easier role, in part because it's the role with more control in the exchange. Being the receiver is a role of vulnerability. So which are you better at, giving, receiving, and why one rather than the other? Much of traditional Christmas art that illustrates the Magi episode of the biblical story depicts that climactic encounter in the barn around the manger with the wise men kneeling as they present gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. If you think about it for a moment, the whole scene is ridiculous. Exotic, wealthy men travel a great distance, following directions so ambiguous they have to stop in and ask the king of the country to provide better directions, ending up in a smelly old barn, falling to their knees around a feed trough where the just born, probably crying at the top of his lungs, infant of a couple of teenagers is swaddled in old rags, holding out royal ring-encrusted hands, not offering pacifiers or onesies or stuffed animals as gifts, but gifts only another person like themselves from a privileged class could truly appreciate. Nothing in that scene makes sense. But then profound stories with the quality of myth, or not intended to appeal to the rational figuring out part of our minds. If anything, such stories set out to thwart or at least temporarily obstruct that usually dominant part of our minds so that something deeper, more creative can emerge. So the story of the three wise men, the central story that along with Santa Claus inspires this whole season of giving and receiving and shopping and presenting gifts, that story may be telling us something about gifts besides the usual gift messages we latch onto. Della and Jim gave each other gifts that ended up being useless. Yet O. Henry called them exceptionally wise. The three magi brought the infant Jesus gifts that were entirely out of place in that setting for those particular people. And yet they also are called wise and singled out ever after as a key part of the Christmas story. Inappropriate gifts, useless gifts, in stories that supposedly offer us wisdom. Where is the wisdom in all that? Well, our culture would have us focus on the gifts we give and receive because we live in a consumer culture and the gifts are intended to drive that consumerism. The most important part of a gift may not ultimately be the gift per se. I wanted a horse with every fiber of my being. And I was so delighted to receive a horse that I ran out of the house shrieking with delight. Decades later, what I remember of that particular Christmas is not the gift, not the horse, but the shock of discovering that my parents just might love me after all. What O. Henry may be after with his comment about Della and Jim's gift exchange being a demonstration of their wisdom is not the ironic twist of gifts that were ultimately useless, but all the thought and emotion leading up to a decision to sacrifice something much loved in order to bring delight to another person. The biblical story of the Magi actually spends a lot more time talking about their journey to find Jesus, how they spotted a star and used it to guide their travels, how they became lost and had to ask King Herod for advice. Then after seeing Jesus, how they had a dream which inspired them to leave quickly and take a different route home. All those twists and turns occupy a lot more verses in the Bible than the manger scene, which happens briefly and is done. The moment a gift passes from one set of hands to another is not the primary moment in a gift exchange. Whether the recipient likes the gift or not, thanks me profusely or not, secretly returns the gift afterwards or hides it in a cupboard at home later or not, those are not the most important moments in a gift exchange. What matters most in giving and receiving is all that leads up to that moment the gift is presented. The intentions, the decisions, the sacrifices, all that drives the giver to make the choices they make to spend more, to spend as little as possible, to find something truly right for the other person, to settle for whatever gift can be found easily and with minimal effort. Those are the elements in giving that tell us who we are and how we love. Where our relationships have been harmed by trouble, where we're in need of healing, where we're willing to give everything for another, and why. My parents lived into their 80s, so we had many, many Christmases we celebrated after that remarkable Christmas of the horse. Over those decades, they presented me with gifts I enjoyed. But my father often cited my reaction to seeing my horse as a reaction he always hoped he might see again. Apparently, the vision of his otherwise quiet daughter transformed into someone who shrieked for joy had changed him in some way, just as the gift had changed me, so that neither of us regarded the other in quite the same way as we had before. I imagine his wishing to have me again shriek with pleasure in response to something he had done was his desire to know that his daughter, a daughter who often mystified him, frustrated him, never quite made sense to him, that daughter did ultimately understand how very much he loved her. In the absence of a shriek, perhaps my father wasn't sure that I knew myself loved. From time to time, when we might be reminiscing together about that Christmas, I would ask how he and my mother set about getting that horse and what inspired them to choose it as my gift that year. He always waved those questions away, telling me that some things have to remain a secret. Now, I would say, along with O. Henry, that refusing to let me see how the horse made its way into my front yard that Christmas morning showed that my father was a wise person. With that mystery intact, he could be sure I would all my life keep circling back and marveling at what an act of love that gift represented. A gift I would never entirely understand because love is too big and complex for any of us to entirely understand. Because a key feature in experiencing love is that we can never quite get our hands around it, never control it, that it always eludes us. That Christmas morning, I felt wonder in every part of myself at what I saw in the front yard. In the years since, wonder from that experience has turned into has turned into a different meaning of wonder, which in its Old English and Germanic roots was sometimes used in a transitive sense as something that happens to us, saying not, I wonder, but it wonders me. The mystery of how the horse got there, the larger mystery of how I experience myself being loved wonders me over and over, has wondered me all my life. The biblical authors never tell us any more about those three wise men. We never learn what Jesus and his family did with those exotic gifts. All we're left with is a strange episode about a journey that made little sense and artistic renderings of a desperately poor newborn being worshipped by three elaborately costumed adults for no apparent reason. That child would ultimately become one of the greatest teachers of love that humanity has ever known. Perhaps in some way, as his parents recounted to him the episode of the wise men's visit, perhaps he began to be wondered by the story. Perhaps he began to learn early on how love can drive us to the ends of the earth, can inspire us to take risks, can transform us as it wonders us into different people than we ever were before. That of all the powers we know, love is the greatest of all. One week remains for us to get all those gifts ready. As I step into my own gift preparations every year, I do try to come up with something as amazing as a horse for the people I love, wanting to give a gift that will wonder them transform them as my parents gave me. Some years I managed that, most not. Gifts that are pure expressions of love, that come with a willing sacrifice and show evidence of having deeply seen and understood the receiver of the gift, those are rather rare. More often, the gifts I give and receive seem expressions of kindness, or, unfortunately, of obligation. But ever so often, a transformative gift comes along to wonder me. And those are the times when this stressful, hectic, consumer-driven holiday opens out, becomes the season of love that we all hope it will be. I wish for all of us the presence of magi in our lives, persons whose gifts will change us by wondering us as they teach us how to love more freely, love more deeply. And may each of us discover, much to our abiding surprise, that we too are the magi. We too carry in our hearts a love that has the power to change everything. May it be so. Amen.
Holidays are made more special when seen through the eyes of a child. Our image of a child at the holidays is rosy and warm. We know, though, that some children at holiday time and throughout the year are in tough situations where community support is vital. One local organization that steps up for the more than 400 children in foster care is the Foster Pantry. Run by volunteers, the Foster Pantry's goal is to provide all the supplies needed as a child enters the foster system in the Cape Fear area. Many times, the child is quickly removed from a potentially hostile situation and goes to a foster family with only the clothes that they are wearing. The Foster Pantry provides a week's worth of clothing, books, toys, toiletries, and in the case of infants, a crib and a stroller. The Foster Pantry also does a wonderful and needed activity at holiday time. Besides gifts for younger children, they provide personalized gifts for 18 to 21-year-olds who have aged out of the foster system and have no family. With our donation, we can help local foster families at Christmas and beyond. Thank you for your generosity. Would the ushers please come forward to take the collection?
Before I say the closing words, there is so much to be grateful for this morning. A choir that just belted that out. A Kathy joining me on the chancel. And in particular, you guys in the closet, come out of the closet. Ron, Jimmy. Merritt. And Richard, our master shelver. And you know, applause is always wonderful, but given the effort that these folks put into enhancing this service for all of us here, all of us elsewhere, all of those people who have yet to find us and usually go looking for us first by looking at a sample service on a website, they get more than just applause. So, a challenge for you in the congregation to thank these people personally. March up to them, embarrass them with a hug if you're a hugging type. Don't let them run when they see you coming. And thank them for this gift they've given us. So perfect in this time of giving. And just one additional comment. One aspect of this congregation that's been such a delight to see is your capacity for generosity. There have been myriad instances of your willingness to give so much in so many ways to this church, and that's not automatically present in a congregation. So that's a gift you have that I hope you'll cherish. The closing words are by Kabir, a Hindu poet. I pulled out and polished my tools. I arranged all my weights and measures. I balanced my scales. And then love came and broke all of them.
Please join as we extinguish the chalice with words from the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Two Kathys have trouble figuring out which Kathy is supposed to be what.
Which Kathy is which?
Let's make our circle now, or our semblance of a circle, please, as we close with shalom.
Thank you.